That's the National Cemetery. In the National Cemetery are Union soldiers killed during this battle. There's about 3,500 of them buried up there. Now, the National Cemetery is pretty well known for another reason. That's where Abraham Lincoln delivers the Gettysburg Address. That occurs in November of 1863, several months after the battle, when the cemetery is actually being dedicated. So that's where the Gettysburg Address took place, is over there in the National Cemetery. Now, for our purposes, this is part of the battlefield. This is where the Union Army ends up at the end of the first day. It was much more open in 1863 than it is today. The biggest change on this battlefield in the 146 years since the fight occurred, we've got more trees out here today. In 1863, this was mostly farmland. And what essentially happened is this. This became a national park in 1895. When it became a national park, they stopped farming a lot of these areas. The trees started growing into these areas that had been open. What they're trying to do today here is get it back to what it actually looked like when the battle occurred. So the federal government is going into a lot of areas here. They're cutting trees down. They're actually opening it back up to kind of restore the battlefield to what it would have looked like 146 years ago when the battle actually took place. And you will see some areas, we'll talk a little bit about this when we get down to the south end of the field, where they have done some of that clearing out, and it makes it a little bit easier to understand what actually happened. Okay, so we're coming off of Cemetery Hill. The town of Gettysburg is down to our right. Gettysburg, they end up here on the hill. The reason they're going to end up on the hill, the town is in a valley. And we got a question here. Okay, if you're on the battlefield, where do you want to be? Top of the hill or the bottom of the hill? Okay, you want to be on high ground. So there's really no reason for the Union Army to try to hold the town. The high ground is going to be much, much more critical. That's where the Union Army is going to occupy. Overnight, after the first day's fight and before the second day's battle began, more troops arrived in both armies. Now, as we head down this road, what we're doing is we're cutting right through the center of the battlefield. The Union Army will be over here to our left. Confederate Army is going to be off to our right, where you see the tree line over there. But again, a lot of those trees did not exist when this battle occurred. That ridge where Robert E. Lee's army is positioned is called Seminary Ridge. The ridge to our left, and these ridges really aren't all that high, but they're high enough to be important simply because if you look up here, you can't see what's on the other side, right? So it's a stronger position than if you're out in the middle of an open field. This low ridge to the left is known as Cemetery Ridge. That's going to become the main Union battle line on the morning of July 2nd as troops arrive and start stretching their line in the direction we're traveling. Now, eventually the Union Army is going to stretch down to two hills that you're going to see down here to our left front as soon as we get past these farm buildings. These hills are known as the Round Tops. Okay. The big hill all the way down at the end, all the way to the far right as we look at it, is Big Round Top. Nobody really cares a whole lot about Big Round Top during the battle. The reason is it was covered with trees. You're up on Big Round Top, you got no visibility. Nobody's really worried too much about that hill. The hill that becomes very important during this battle is Little Round Top. That's the smaller hill to the left of Big Round Top. If you look at it, you can see the front of it's open. We are going to be up on Little Round Top a little bit later in the tour. That's basically going to be the end of the Union Army's battle lines. The Union Army's over here to our left. Southern Army is going to be over here to our right, occupying what's known as Seminary Ridge. One of the things that's going to help you guys understand the battle is understanding the monuments that you see. There are a lot of monuments out here. There's about 1,300 of them on the battlefield. Most of them are monuments to the Union Army. Most of them date from the 1880s and 1890s. And they're actually placed here by the veterans, by the guys that actually fought here. They're coming back to Gettysburg, putting the monuments on the battlefield. What they're doing is actually marking where they fought. Monuments literally mark troop positions. So if you see monuments today, 146 years ago, that's where troops are going to be located on the battlefield. Most of the monuments represent our regiments. On paper, a regiment would have started out with 1,000 guys. By this stage of the war, average regiment is down to about 350 people, just because of the losses they sustained. Now, what we're going to do here in a second, we're going to make our first stop, and we're going to get out, kind of point out some of these landmarks and how they kind of relate to each other. What we're also going to do here is talk a little bit about how this first day's, or how the second day's battle plays out. The other thing we need to deal with is how they fought during the war. If you understand the way they fought, a lot of what we're going to talk about during the course of the tour is going to start making a lot more sense. So we are going to deal with all of those things when we make our first stop in the area right here to our right, an area known as the Peach Orchard. Eric, let's pull in right here. This is the area. The scouts are smart enough to get out of the way. Wow, we have to change casualty figures. So we're going to get out. We're going to go up here to the corner of the orchard. There is a scout group up there on the hill. I'm going to go